Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And before we get started with today's news, I want to let you guys know that I've revised my Patreon page. So it's my first time launching Patreon, and I wasn't sure where to start. So I've changed the tier, so it's much easier to actually go support my Guns N' Roses page. So there's three tiers. There's a $1 tier, $3 per month, and then $5 per month. So the $1 tier, you'll get ad block forgiveness and access to my Patreon only feed where I'll discuss everything I'm working on and what to expect on my channel in the future. You'll also get some sneak peeks for content coming up for my True Story episodes. The second tier, which is the $3 per month, I'll include shoutouts to you guys in all of my videos in the description boxes. And of course, you'll get access to my Patreon only feed. And I'll also include any shoutouts to your social media channels. And then the $5 per month, you'll get exclusive access to True Story episodes before everyone else does, including shoutouts to all of you guys in the description boxes and access to the Patreon only feed. So if there's any ways I can improve my Patreon feed, let me know, guys. Comment down below. But if you guys want to go support me, the link to my Patreon channel is down below in the description box. Without further ado, let's get started with our news for the week. So the first news story concerns an article that Rolling Stone did. So they had an article about 15 legendary tours that never happened or that never were. So they talked about the 1991 tour that Guns N' Roses and rap group NWA almost did. So the title reads, Guns N' Roses tour with iconic rappers fell apart due to surprising money dispute. So on the cusp of the 90s, there were no two groups more embattled or controversial than Guns N' Roses and NWA, so it made perfect sense that Hollywood's biggest rock band and Compton's finest rap ensemble would actually see each other as kindred spirits. So Axl Rose made it a point of wearing an NWA cap on stage and in videos, while NWA's Appetite for Destruction from their 1991 album was partly inspired by GNR's album of the same name. So the two groups even actually socialized a bit. They hung out with each other at backyard barbecues, according to Duff, and they even hung out at a Guns N' Roses gig at the LA Forum in 1991, and they talked about the idea of doing concerts together. So according to one of the members of NWA, we were supposed to do a couple of shows with them, but our manager got too greedy. They wanted to give us $25,000 for 10 minutes, but our manager wanted $50,000, so it didn't work. And then given the wide swath of devastation that both groups left in their retrospective wakes while on tour, one can only imagine the insanity that would have resulted from pairing them together on the road. So if you guys want to read the entire Rolling Stone article, I've linked to it down below. Let's go into our next news story. So we've got a new interview with Richard Fortus. He was talking about the Guns N' Roses tour that they're on, and he said that Axl has never sounded better. So according to antimusic.com, Fortus has, as you guys know, been a member of Guns N' Roses for over a decade, and he recently spoke with Hot Press about what it's been like to play with reunited Axl, Slash, and Duff. He says Slash and Duff have the same approach that I do. You play for the song first and foremost. He revealed it's not about some type of masturbatory showcase for your abilities. It's always about working together as a band, supporting wherever the focus needs to be, not simply waiting for your turn to wank. I don't think this band has ever sounded better than it has right now. Axl's never sounded better, and we're tighter and more focused than ever. So as a veteran of the band, he has seen a few members come and go and was asked about his longevity with the group. He said, it's really not much of a challenge for me to stay in the band. It's frustrating for some because there are periods of downtime. I've always been able to find work when I need to without much problem. So if you guys want to see the entire article, I've linked to it down below. Let's go on to our next piece of news. So we've got another article from Alternative Nation. This one's courtesy of the MyGNR forum. So there's a Norwegian girl, posted a cute story about Axl Rose, about how he actually blew her a kiss at one of the actual shows. So she had went to the show in London on June 16th, and she basically made a quick post about how wonderful of an experience it was. And they had actually written a sign that said, Axl, blow us a kiss, ? Love. So she basically, it's a pretty long post, but she talked about her experience, so I've linked to that article down below as well. So there's a YouTube channel called Cinemassacre. This guy's got over 2 million subscribers, and he did a video about Guns N' Roses. So he talked about the best Guns N' Roses songs where they use the F word. And he's got a nice video where he goes in detail through each of the songs. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I did the True Story about Don't Damn Me, and one of my subscribers was nice enough to send me this video. So I've linked to it down below for you guys to go check out. We've also got another Guns N' Roses article on LAist. They've got an article called A Guide to Guns N' Roses Los Angeles. So it's just talking about, 80s LA, and they talked about a little bit about the Troubadour, as well as some of the history of the band and some of the shows they've actually performed there. So I've linked to that article down below. We've also got some news about the band Weezer. So this is from early last week. So Weezer actually impersonated Guns N' Roses at one of their shows. So they performed at the Arroyo Seco Festival and Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California over the last weekend. And the band paid homage to Guns N' Roses by dressing up as them. So on Weezer's 1994 track Suzanne, frontman Rivers Cuomo actually referenced Izzy Stradlin, Axl Rose, and Slash in a lyric that was originally intended to include Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, but was changed after Cobain's suicide. So there are parody videos you guys can actually see, and these are just some photos of them dressing up as Guns N' Roses. So you can see that Rivers is going more for like an 80s style Axl Rose, more like from the Paradise City music video. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but I think Weezer and Guns have actually played some shows together back in 2002. I thought they were on the bill for some of the same concerts that both bands had actually done. I've always wondered if Axl was a fan of Weezer or not. I've always been a fan of Weezer. Unfortunately, I don't think their music is as good as it was back in the 90s, but let me know if you guys are fans of Weezer down in the comments section. Let's go on to our next news story of the week. We've also got a couple of Rolling Stone pieces that cover Guns N' Roses. So Ozzy talked about his favorite 10 metal albums, and as you guys can guess, Appetite for Destruction was one of those top 10 albums. He said, one of the greatest debut albums of all times. There is not a weak song on the bunch. I never get tired of hearing it. And then we also had a similar article written with Lars Ulrich. So he talked about his top 15 metal albums. And we've all known that he's a huge Guns N' Roses fan. I think he's the biggest Guns N' Roses fan out of that band, Metallica. James Hetfield seems like he's not a big GNR fan. He sort of lumped GNR in there with the rest of the hair metal bands from LA back in the 80s. So here's what Lars had to say about Appetite. He said, "What can I say about Appetite that hasn't already been said? It's one of the handful of greatest rock records ever recorded. Appetite is genreless in a way. In that it's not only one of the best rock records and metal records of all time, but it's also just one of the best records of all time, and it obviously shaped a generation and was the blueprint for literally thousands of bands. You can put the Beatles' Revolver and the best Rolling Stones record and the best Springsteen record and the best U2 record. It's just one of those records that everybody has a relationship with. The record was a soundtrack to a specific part in most people's lives." He also said, when I think of Appetite, I think of 1987. The record was in your face like for 3 years. When you go back and listen to it, I remember for the first time, I heard this. I was flying to New York. I had been in LA at the record company. My A&R guy gave me an advance cassette and said, check out this record from this band that's coming out. It was like 2 months before it came out, and Welcome to the Jungle. That was pretty cool. I liked it. It didn't blow my head off or whatever, but It's So Easy. I'd never heard anything like that. And then when he started It's So Easy, So Effing Easy, that whole attitude, I've never heard anything like that. Then in Night Train, it had the whole swagger and attitude. And then in Out to Get Me with the spite, They Won't Catch Me. The spite and his anger and this attitude and this effing thing. Then there was Mr. Brownstone in Paradise City. It was like 4 or 5 of those songs. I was literally sitting on the airplane, just mouth effing open and eyes like, what the F did I just hear? That 20 minutes, then I got off the plane. It was a red eye. I called my guy in LA and I was like, what? Who is this? Where did this come from? And that was the beginning of something life-altering. In last week's news piece, we talked about a new Guns N' Roses book called Guns N' Roses FAQ coming out, or actually it's already out. There's another Guns N' Roses book coming out this fall on September 5th called Guns N' Roses, The Life and Times of a Rock and Roll Band. So this apparently is written by a band insider, and it's the most comprehensive, fully illustrated, up-to-date, unofficial exploration of GNR. So it's the actual listing on Amazon reads, fans of GNR, one of the world's most beloved and hardest rockin' bands, has long dreamt of a reunion, and in 2016, after 23 years, it finally happened. It says the classic lineup of Axl, Slash, and Duff, with guest appearances of Steven Adler minus Izzy. They talk about launching a worldwide tour, and they talked about how the author, whose name is Paul Elliott, is one of the first rock journalists ever to interview Guns N' Roses, and their former PR manager brings a real edge to this insightful examination of the group, its music, its success, and struggles. And the book contains 200 stunning color photographs from key photographers who have documented the band's career. So this looks like an interesting book. I might pick it up when it comes out this fall. Let's go on to our next news story. So we've got a couple interviews with Tommy Stinson. He's out touring with his band Bash and Pop, and of course questions about Guns N' Roses are coming up. And he talked a bit about playing with Guns N' Roses, as well as why he actually left the band. So the article interviewed Stinson, and he said, here's what he had to say. See, talking about Guns N' Roses, he said he looked back fondly at it. He said it was a great gig for me. The people were great to me. They were all still my friends. The way it was left was somewhat unfortunate for me because I got to a place where I couldn't tour anymore because of my home situation. It had gotten to such a degree I had to stay home and take care of my kid and be a stay-at-home dad. After a while of having to turn down tours from those guys, they had to move on, and Axl got the old band together. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Go support me on Patreon. The link to my Patreon page is down below if you guys are interested. And you can follow me on social media. The links to my social media channels are down below. And be sure to hit the subscribe button if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. Take care.